So here we have something known as DNA digital storage. Now, DNA digital storage refers to encoding and decoding of binary data into or from a DNA molecule. Understood? When we encode binary data into a DNA molecule or we decode binary data from a DNA molecule, this is known as DNA digital storage. And this entire concept of storing digital data in a DNA molecule is said to be DOT or DNA of things. Very simple. How is your digital data stored? Say, for example, take your smartphone itself. A smartphone has a hard disk, correct? It has some, or a laptop, computer, whatever it is. It has a hard disk. It has some storage space. So your photos, your videos, movies, songs, whatever it is, how is it stored inside your digital device? It is stored in the form of binary digits, correct? In a series of ones and zeros, whatever it is. Say, for example, you have to store letter B. How is letter B stored? You have this ASCII representation. I don't remember the ASCII representation for B, but just for the sake of example, I could say that B is stored as something like this. Letter B is stored as 0, 1, 0, 0, 0, 1, 0, something like this. This is how all your binary, your digital data is stored in a digital space or a digital, your hard disk with respect to computer, smartphone, whatever it is. So this has certain disadvantages. For example, if you need to store huge amounts of data, then the size of the hard disk increases. The size of the hard disk increases. On top of that, the life of your hard disk. Say, for example, even if you take a pen drive, do you think the pen drive will survive for 2 decades? No, it will go corrupt. So the lifespan of the pen drive is very small. Also, a pen drive of this size can only store how much? 64 GB, for example, 64 GB. I doubt if you get pen drives of this size of 128 GB. You may or you may not get, but still it is restricted. But we are talking about huge amounts of data in terabytes. Terabytes and terabytes and terabytes of data. So what will happen? If you wish to store the entire information of the universe, how much storage space do you think you require? It will occupy more than this entire building, the storage space with respect to your hardware. So now we are talking about storing it in DNAs. So we have already discussed this in our introduction class to biotechnology. You know that DNA is nothing but a molecule, a double-stranded molecule, where the base is formed by your sugar base, and it also has nitrogen bases like this. And this could be your A, T, G, C, whatever it is. So now we are saying, instead of storing it in a hard disk in the form of zeros, ones, and zeros, why not represent these zeros, ones, and zeros in the form of A, T, G, and C? Meaning what? I will say, this is a nitrogen base, adenine. Let adenine represent 0, 1. Then you have T, thymine. Let thymine represent 1, 0. Then you have G. Let G represent 0, 0. Then you have C. Let C represent 1, 1. Where in a DNA molecule, if I have A, T, G, and C, this will be what? This will be 0, 1, 1, 0, 0, 0, 1, 1. What is this? This is once again nothing but your digital data. This is nothing but your digital data. So we are saying, instead of storing data in a hardware, your hard disk, why not store this data in a DNA molecule? So if you see this image, I'll just erase this. So if you see this image over here, this is your binary digits, data stored in digital space. This is encoded into a sequence of A, T, C, and G. A, T, C, and G represents adenine, guanine, thymine, and cytosine. With this, we are able to synthesize DNA. And therefore, in this DNA molecule over here, this digital data is stored. And when I say we synthesize, we artificially create a DNA. Now we have discussed about polymerase chain reaction. Okay, now through oligonucleotide sequences, we are able to synthesize DNA strands. So we will synthesize DNA strands where the nitrogen bases follow this particular sequence. This particular sequence is based on this binary data. So what am I trying to say? This DNA molecule effectively is storing this digital data. If we wish to make use of this data, then we can decode this particular data and we can extract this data in the reverse direction. Finally, to retrieve the same digital data in the binary form, that is 1 and 0. Is this clear? Understood? Now, of course, you've understood what is DNA digital storage or DNA of things. But at the same time, obviously, there are benefits and then there are disadvantages. What are the benefits? Benefits is that DNA molecule is very, very stable. It is very stable. It has survived with us for millions of years. So if you create a DNA molecule, if you synthesize a DNA molecule and store data in it, it cannot be corrupted. It will stay in the same format for centuries together, unlike your actual hard disk, which will go corrupt in a few years. This cannot go corrupt. It will store the actual data for a very long period of time. Similarly, one molecule of DNA, say for example, if you take DNA of a human, it has 3 billion base pairs. It can store a huge amount of data. So if you take one DNA molecule, it can store such a huge amount of data, it is unfathomable for you to compare it with DNA digital storage. So the storage space is reduced. You have more stable form of digital storage. But at the same time, do you have disadvantages? Of course, you have disadvantages. Say, for example, I have to create and I have to decode information. It is time consuming. It may take me around 2 days. Now, of course, time has reduced. The time taken has reduced. It will take me time to encode this digital data into a DNA molecule. At the same time, it will take me time to extract this digital data from a DNA molecule. Just like a pen drive, can I take a DNA and plug it into my laptop? I can't do that. Correct? You can't plug it in. So you need a separate process and a device which is able to encode and decode information from DNA. On top of it, it is an expensive process. It is an expensive process. So these are some of the advantages and disadvantages when it comes to your DNA digital storage.